The UK is bolstering its military status, ending 2015 with a vote to bomb Syria. For the last month, we've shown the world our military capabilities, our bold approach to war, our ability to destroy cities far away, killing and injuring thousands of people and leaving many others homeless. Across the UK, there was outrage at Britain's decision to bomb Syria, but inside Syria, the vote made little difference. Journalists reported that people were largely unaware of the House of Commons debate. For them, this war has already been going on for too long. There are nearly 3,000 miles between the decision to drop bombs and the places where they fall, but the places are connected in more ways than we think. This is the story of the people forcibly removed from their homes, running for their lives and often dying along the way. In the heart of Budapest stands an eclectic railway terminal, built in 1884 and today the busiest station in the country. A hub of national as well as international lines, Keleti station is a gateway. When Hungary's government closes its border in September this year, Keleti becomes a refugee camp. People fleeing violence in the Middle East find themselves stuck in the station's network of tunnels, a bleak light, a cold floor, and the stench of dirty sleeping bags. In this uncertain terminal, strangers become best friends. We find Yusuf Ibrahim inside a tent. Along the journey to escape Syria, Yusuf has made some close friends, but his thoughts are never far from the loved ones he's left behind, in a country he describes simply as difficult.
يحسن يدبر أكل له ولاولاده بكون بألف خير، لأني ما تمشي وسائل الحياة كلها انعدمت من مي وكهرباء وغذاء. مشان هيك العالم كلها فكرت إنها تطلع برات سوريا. يعني الكهرباء أبداً ما في ولا مي ولا وسائل الحياة، أغذية أبداً ما في ولا أدوية.
After nearly 5 years of war, Syria has become a place where something as urgent as getting medicine is now nearly impossible.
يعني إذا واحد صار مريض صار بحاجة الدواء وما بيعرف لحاله لأنه يدبر الدواء له أو لأولاده.
Yusuf shows me photographs of the family he's left behind. We have to protect their identities, so we can't show you the images. Yusuf fears for their safety.
هي البراميل اللي عم تنزل على سوريا وبخاصة يعني مدينة حلب، يعني البراميل عم تنزل ليل نهار. يعني أي شيء تصليحات عم تسويها الهيئات الشعبية أو اللجان الشعبية أو المنظمات الإغاثية في مدينة حلب المحررة عم برجع بوضع عليها كلياتها بشار الأسد.
Like many of the other refugees we speak to here, Yusuf says he's been treated badly by the Europeans he's encountered.
والجزيرة اليونانية كانت المعاملة سيئة كثير، يعني خلونا نلم الزبالة من الشوارع وخلونا يعني إهانات كثيرة وعياط كثير علينا، يعني إهانات كثيرة بالجزيرة اليونانية. نفس الحكي لحتى خلصنا من اليونان. بصربيا نفس الحكي، المعاملة يعني سيئة كثير، بس المعاملة السيئة أكثر شيء هون ببودابست. في إهانات كثيرة بالنسبة للسوريين، يعني ما نسألين حقوق الإنسان أبداً.
The journey isn't over, but Yusuf is hoping the worst of it is.
وبس دخلت تركيا بتبلش المعاناة من أزمير لحتى توصل اليونان. طبعاً كل العالم عم تطلع بالبلم المعروف مراكب الموت. هو يعني واحد مثل ما بقولوا شايل الروح على كفه.
Yusuf is just one of millions of Syrians who fled war. Many have made a perilous journey from Syria, through Turkey, across the Mediterranean Sea and into Europe. The route is pregnant with risk. The International Organization for Migration estimates that upwards of 1 million people have arrived by sea to Europe this year alone. Germany has the most asylum applications, but with a surge of arrivals in Budapest, Hungary now has the highest in proportion to its population. 1,450 refugees per 100,000 of Hungary's local population claimed asylum in the first half of the year, and by September, the government had had enough.
Now we're just gonna, since it's night and cold, we're just gonna give out some blankets to people.
And you've been doing this all night already, right?
Yeah, we've been here since 11 in the morning, actually.
Refusing to open its borders to allow refugees out of the country, Hungary essentially traps thousands of them here in Keleti station. Volunteers from across Europe arrive to hand out blankets and clothing. In some cases, families have been separated from one another, so the volunteers are also helping to locate missing family members and to provide advocacy support.
I mean, what I hear is stories here, that's what they've done for these children and for these women in the camp. You cannot believe that, threw the food in their face, kicked them, I mean, don't give them nothing. I mean, I have here one girl, she's 17 years old, she don't know where's his father. She's get lost. And she don't have any contact with her father. Her father, they take him the police somewhere and they take the girls in somewhere else, and she's here by herself.
The refugees sleep under an open sky, and many, already in poor health, are getting sick. We meet a local doctor who's here to help.
Most of the symptoms that the people are suffering from are the diarrhea and the vomiting. They are very weak, they need to have the rest, they walked a lot of much. Many of the children have a fever, and we are trying to help them, to treat them as much as we can do.
And these people who have come from Syria and many from Iraq and other places like Afghanistan, what have they brought with them?
Nothings. They are starving, they are tired, they are hungry, nothings. When I spent to nothings, people who have been fighting for food, have been fighting for water, have been fighting for clubs, have been fighting for shoes. We bought them shoes, we bought them clubs, we bought them everything, nothings. Real nothings. And the rich people are sleeping at home.
Journey is very hard and difficult for anyone he think for come to here. Maybe the just journey in Greek. Yes, we come in the sea, in the palm, and this is very dangerous for human. You listen in the news, maybe people die. Yes, yes. After Greece, we go to Macedonia. Yes, so easy in Macedonia, and the police is very good. After Macedonia, Serbia. Yes, we stay in Serbia for 2 days for take these papers. Yes. After Serbia, here in Hungary.
And what is the cost of such a difficult journey? I wanted to find out.
Yes, $2,400 or 2,500 euro.
لبكره ما حدا بيعرف شو بصير، يعني محتمل نحن واقفين هون مباركين هون يجوا يشيلوا العالم كلياتها وياخذوها على الكامب. شيء بصموها بصمه، يعني بصمه لجوء اجباريه، يعني كثير اصدقائي تعرضوا لهذا الموقف، بصموا بصمه لجوء، عند اجوا قدموا طلب لجوء على غير دوله اوروبيه، قالوا لهم انتم بصمين بهنغاريا. يعني هلا واحدنا عم بيدخل على الكامب بقول لك اجباري بدك تبصم. اول شيء بيقولوا لنا اني بصمه جنائيه، يعني بصمه انك داخل على البلد من طريقه غير شرعيه. هي ما معترف عليها ببصمه الدبلوم، المعترف عليها بالاتحاد الاوروبي. عند بتصل لغايتك على الدوله اللي انت فيها، بيجوا بياخذوا بصماتك، بقول لك انت باسم هنغاريا. طيب انا باسم بهنغاريا وبصمه غير شرعيه، بقول لك لا هذا الحكي مو مزبوط، انت مقدم طلب لجوء وبدك ترجع على هنغاريا اجباري.
At the UK-based charity Human Appeal, the refugee crisis is of particular interest.
Well, Human Appeal has been involved in Syria since the start of the crisis. So not only have we been supporting people who are internally displaced within the country, but also been following the journey of the refugees into Turkey, into Jordan, Lebanon, and of course the more recent crisis within Europe itself.
Winter is an especially busy time for the charity. Human Appeal is raising funds through a series of events to help supply refugees with winter clothing. Temperatures can dip below -2 degrees in some parts of Syria.
Winter in Syria is very harsh. It's not the kind of winter that we're used to. We're talking about different temperature levels. We're talking about people who are inadequately clothed, living in tent conditions, wind. It is sharp.
The head of the European Union has warned that thousands of people migrating across the Balkans this winter are likely to freeze to death. Omar Ali is an aid worker with Human Appeal. He's been travelling to Greece and Macedonia to assist refugees entering Europe.
So the refugees come across from Turkey to the Greek island of Lesbos and the waters can be very rough. They are overloading the boats, and there have been numerous occasions where boats have capsized and where people have lost their lives. It's terrible. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Just around me there are, pumped up tires, where people have used that as almost as a life jacket. You can just see the emotion in their eyes. They look around at themselves and they have nothing. There are women who are nearly 9 months pregnant. There are parents who are bringing their newborns and walking for miles and kilometers across mountains and rocky roads and all types of weather. They don't come with any blankets or sleeping bags. So of course they're extremely hot and dehydrated in the day, and of course at night they are actually in some circumstances freezing. They're not arriving as a full family often. They're arriving having lost their mother. They're arriving having lost their children. They're arriving in a state of mourning, and all they want is peace and a better life. We really have to be here on the front line helping them, because they're our brothers and sisters, and whether in humanity or in anything else, and they need our help.
We've been monitoring the situation for the last 5 years since the war started, and charting the journey of the refugees and the IDPs. So realizing Greece is a point where people are trying to reach, and it's not going to stop until the situation in Syria improves. So every day, even though the numbers crossing have decreased, but you're still looking at 3,000 to 5,000 people coming regularly. And I think we're possibly the only charity left within Greece still trying to meet the refugees as they arrive on the shore, and then trying to support them on their journey forward.
Human Appeal is registered as a charity in Greece, where many of the refugees first arrive. It says it's hoping to raise £1 million this year as part of its winter clothing campaign.
This winter, like any other winter, unfortunately, inside Syria particularly, is going to be very harsh. It's not the kind of winter that we are exposed to. So we're ensuring that they have heating in place, to have blankets, jackets, boots, and the right equipment and clothing to keep them going and survive the harsh conditions.
So, who are the refugees? Where are they, and what are their prospects? Over the last 5 years, 4 million Syrians have fled the country, while some 8 million remain internally displaced and still in the midst of war. Of those that have managed to escape through Syria's borders, nearly 1 million have resettled in the sprawling refugee camp at Za'atari in Jordan. It is the world's second largest refugee camp, and reports say most of the refugees will remain here for nearly 2 decades to come. Across the northern border, about 2 million refugees are now living in Turkey. The Turkish government has set up villages of container homes to deal with the freezing temperatures. It has been praised a number of times for helping refugees settle into new homes, get jobs and integrate into the education system. In Europe, Germany pledged to take in 800,000 refugees. This year, Germany processed more than 484,000 refugee applications by the end of October alone. At the time of producing this report, we're still a long way off from that 800,000 mark, but that could be because of the time it takes to process applications. With an ageing population, Germany is naturally proving to be most welcoming. Refugees who have enough money to carry on after Caleti find themselves on trains pulling into Munich Central Station. Here they're met by crowds of Germans welcoming them to their new home with drinks, toys, food and clothing. The refugees appear relieved to have arrived, if not a little overwhelmed by the kindness.
I saw a girl, she was not wearing any shoes, maybe like a 4 or 5 year old girl, just not wearing any shoes. And almost all of them are just arriving here wearing summer clothes, shorts and t-shirts. So, and now it's getting really, it's getting chilly here.
Well, look, first of all, you have to understand the majority of Syrians are not going to get out of the country. They're going to be living in camps, so they're struggling within that camp environment, that tent environment that we see on television regularly. Those that had the money managed to get out of Syria, into Turkey, into Lebanon and Jordan, and even them, their savings have run out now, where people are actually resorting to cleaning people's houses to survive. Those who are a little bit fortunate, and we're talking about a minority here, we're looking at 13 million people. A minority of that have managed to get across the sea into Greece, and even making that treacherous journey is such a sacrifice, you know, losing members of your family along the way as well, possibly. So landing on Greece, where they come to a totally different climate, a totally different culture, and then making that, you know, journey by foot, by car, by train, however they can do it. You know, their life savings are depending on this journey, basically. And then getting across Greece into Macedonia, and from Macedonia across Serbia, and then into places like Hungary, Austria, and then most of them are trying to get to Germany, because Germany has been very welcoming of the refugees crisis at the moment in Europe.
After a week of pressure, the British Prime Minister finally agreed to take in 20,000 refugees over the next 4 years. David Cameron also promised that 1,000 of them would be settled here in the UK by Christmas.
The UK government's pledge of taking 20,000 Syrian refugees over the parliamentary term, it's a welcome step. Of course, I would accept that, but certainly it doesn't go far enough. It's really scratching the surface and a drop in the ocean. We know the size, the scale, and the severity of the refugee crisis, and the UK could and should be doing a lot more, not only from those camps neighbouring Syria, but also in regards to those refugees who are arriving on our shore, on our doorstep. Here in Europe, having visited Lesbos myself, I've seen that there is a wave after wave of refugees arriving on our shores, and for the UK not to play its part, I think is unacceptable, and actually, frankly, will cost lives.
Last month, a flight carrying 100 refugees arrived in Glasgow. It was the largest group of Syrian refugees to arrive in the country since the government's September pledge.
It's important to say the refugees that arrive in Scotland are not just in Glasgow, they're being dispersed and they're being resettled, I should say, right across the country. And it's amazing. The response from local authorities in Scotland has been incredible, from councils and local authorities that have never taken refugees in their life, saying we want to take them for a number of reasons, mainly their altruism and their compassion. So we have refugees going to Aberdeen, to Dundee, to Perth. We even have refugees going to the island of Bute, which is going to be fascinating to see how that works. We're very confident that it will be a great experience for the refugees, but also for the local island communities.
As an international charity, we're obviously in the business of assessing the need on the ground. So the needs of people within Syria is very different from those living in Jordan, Turkey, and in Lebanon. And those who are making the journey across Europe and arriving here on the shores, their needs are very, very different. So, of course, we assess on the ground what the requirements are, and then go to our donors, volunteers, and supporters, and ensure that they can help to fulfil our needs, to fulfil the needs of the refugees.
The British government has made it clear that it'll only allow refugees into Britain who have come from refugee camps in Syria's neighbouring countries. This is, David Cameron says, to deter people from making the hazardous journey across the Mediterranean. But his bombing campaign is likely to create more refugees, and waves of them continue to risk their lives. The two most dangerous routes are from Turkey to Greece and from Libya to Italy, the latter being perhaps the deadliest. The International Organization of Migrants estimates that over 2,800 migrants died trying to make the crossing this year. Most of them are refugees. It says altogether 3,406 people died in the Mediterranean in 2015, including Aylan al-Kurdi, the toddler whose photo went on to create global outrage at the way we treat the refugee crisis.
You know, I think you'd have to have a heart of stone not to be moved by the picture of Aylan Kurdi washed up in the beach. And I know it certainly moved a lot of people. I suppose the question that many people asked quite rightly was, why did it take a picture of such severity, such cruelty of the human condition to have to move people? And I think it's important to remember this refugee crisis has been happening not since October this year or earlier this year. It's been happening for over 4.5, almost 5 years actually, since the beginning of the civil war in Syria. So certainly we should make sure that in the name of Aylan Kurdi and many other refugees that we don't forget. And I certainly won't have it in my government's conscience. I won't have it in my personal conscience either, that we didn't do enough.
Sadly, I think the world is moving at such a fast pace, especially the political world. And the images of Aylan al-Kurdi that we saw washed up on the beach that day, I know that the social media and media generally went viral about the issue. We were totally disgraced that we as a humanitarian world, you know, that especially in Europe, could allow this kind of thing to go on right on our doorstep. But sadly, I think things have moved on. We're on to a different crisis now. And people need to realize that the problem still exists. People are still trying to make that journey. It's a treacherous journey. People are still losing their lives. and people are still trying to look for a place called home, whatever it might be.
This is London this morning. The city is preparing for the biggest party of the year. Loud music on the ground and earth-shattering bangs in the sky. Wrap up warm because for about 15 minutes tonight, we'll stand in the cold and watch our sky light up. We'll gasp at how wonderful our display has been, compare it with other cities, and by this time tomorrow, we'd have forgotten all about it. When the skies light up over Syria tonight, it won't be fireworks. The new year will pass by without fanfare. Some people will organise funerals, others will prepare to defend themselves, and then there are those who wait for a gap in the bombing so that they can run.